This is The Metro on 1019 WDET. I'm Kerry Jr. II. Is Michigan's Idlewild making a comeback? That's what people who spent their childhood summers there might say if you asked about the efforts being made to redevelop it. Idlewild is an unincorporated community that was established in 1912. The town was known to be a safe haven for Black Americans who had few vacationing options and for Black entertainers who were barred from performing at white-only venues. It was eventually dubbed the Black Eden, and well-known entertainers like Louis Armstrong, Della, Reese, and Aretha Franklin spent their time at the resort. But after integration, few people visited Idlewild and the community fell on hard times. Now today, there are efforts to reinvest in the area. The National Trust for Historic Preservation placed one of the resort's hotels, the Hotel Casa Blanca, on this year's 11 most endangered historic locations. And local leaders working to develop the resort, people like Carmen and Kyle Grier, have spent their time in recent years investing in the community. They both grew up in Idlewild as kids, and last year they opened the Team Center. It's a nonprofit that provides life skills for families in Idlewild who need it. And the acronym for the nonprofit stands for Teach, Educating, Equipping, and Mentoring. I spoke to them about their time growing up in Idlewild, how they reconnected years later to start the Team Center, and their plans for the center and the people of Idlewild. We started by discussing their upbringing. Carmen's family moved around a lot when they were kids, and when her father got an opportunity to work in Michigan, he took it.
I was born in California. We were Navy kids and we were all over the place. Michigan had good work, so he came up here, brought us up here, and this is kind of where I grew up. We lived in the woods off Astor Road on 32nd Street, and there was nobody there. There's still nobody there. We were the only house there, and I had a couple of dogs. And we spent a lot of time with the Grier family. They lived on the lake. So we would go over their house and have fun and swim in the lake. And his mom who would feed all of us. And then they'd come to our house and in the woods, and we play ping pong. We get on snowmobiles and make little ramps for ourselves. And they were like my brothers and sisters, and vice versa. When they came to our house, we'd fix a big meal and we'd all eat together. And it was like that for a few years. In 7th grade, things happened. They divorced, and we were sent back to Illinois. And I grew up the rest of my adulthood life there. But I still had a hankering for coming home.
You're talking about your parents?
Yeah.
Kyle, do you remember those times on the lake, having her family over? And
oh boy, we had a smaller house, and they had this big ranch with a basement, and we'd play ping pong. And I'll never forget, her mom made these mashed potatoes, and I'll never forget those mashed potatoes. Back in the day when they mashed real potatoes, and they had the little lumps in them, man. And there was something about them potatoes, man.
Wait a minute now. I still eat mashed potatoes with lumps in them. I still mash my potatoes up at home.
My mom, she cooked from the box. It was a good day when she'd make it, just from potatoes. But it was a treat to go over there and get those real potatoes with those lumps in it and butter. And, oh, my God. So, Carrie.
Boy, it's like a change of life when you had them. Like, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
this is how it is supposed to be. That's hilarious. Yeah. Kyle, you eventually left Idlewild. Why?
I left and went to Detroit. Then after that, I spent 26 years in Atlanta and a few years in California. And then out in Phoenix for a while, 11 years. And so once me and Carmen connected again, she had a home in Springfield. I had a home in Arizona. It was too hot for her. So I decided, okay, I'll sell that house. And we went on to Springfield. And so now we kind of travel back and forth. But the majority of our time now is spent in Idlewild.
Idlewild is considered to be the, quote, Black Eden.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? What made it so special?
So the thrill of seeing all these Black people and affluent people and just people from across the country. We met people from as far away as California and Georgia and all that. So it was just ideal. It was thrilling, and had all type of motels here and places to go and things to do. We had our own, we had our own infrastructure.
I see it like a little town of one great big giant family reunion with a beautiful lake, clear lake. You can see down to the bottom, out to 10 feet, fresh air, beautiful trees, spiritual peace, and joy. You don't have to apologize for who you are. You can wear your hair the way you want to. You can be your blackest if you want to. And there's nobody criticizing or looking at you weird. That you can't do that on the job. You can't do that in most cities. You have to code switch. We don't have to do that here. It's just wonderful to be able to relax in your own skin.
Now, years have passed, and the Idlewild community changed from the time you two were kids. Carmen, what happened?
What happened was they kind of got tricked with integration. When integration came through, they said, oh, now we can go to white establishments. We can sleep in white hotels. We can go anywhere we want to. We don't need the green book anymore to try to find black accommodations. So they just abandoned Idlewild. It was a jewel. They didn't know what they had, and they abandoned it.
So decades later, when you returned to Idlewild, what did you think?
To me, it was a disaster. The houses have been abandoned for 50, 60 years. And, so I said, we got to fix this. So we said, well, we need to plant here and bring it back because it was hurting my heart, and Kyle was upset about it. All other little townships, they have regulations and ordinances and, they don't just let everything fall apart. So this is historically Black. Why would you let it look like this?
Take me to that moment when you two were like, okay, we're in Springfield, Illinois, but there's an opportunity for us to return to Idlewild and, invest in it.
My family had owned property here in 1955, but they never built on it. So it passed down to from all my greats down to my cousin, and he sold it to me for $15. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. Next thing I know, Kyle calls me in Springfield and says, hey, I'm doing a prayer day in Chicago. You got any intercessors? Any prayer warriors? I was like, yeah, I got a whole team. So we met him in Chicago. And that turned out really well. And he was divorced and I was divorced. And he said, well, it seems like we're supposed to be back together. And I said, okay, since we were best pals in 5th grade, and soon after that we got married, and God gave us the call to come back here. And we didn't know really what we were supposed to do. We were just driving around, and his sister noticed this building, and she said, maybe that could be a house. And we said, well, it's kind of big for a house. And we checked into it, and a pastor had purchased the land and was starting to build a church, and come to find out he was 15 feet onto another person's property. And they didn't tell him till after the foundation was laid. Of course, he couldn't move the church, so he just dropped everything and walked away from it. So we got it at a really good price. It didn't have a well. It didn't have septic. It didn't have anything. So we had to start from scratch and dig wells and put in septics and clear the land, clear the trees, and build a parking lot and build walls and make rooms out of nothing. And, we did most of the labor ourselves, laying carpet and ceramic floors and painting and doing all the stuff ourselves. Lo and behold, we just believed that this building was preserved for us because it had been sitting here for 22 years empty. And we said, we're going to build this up for the community, for kids and youth like we were, to give them something to do because everything's different than it was when we were children. So that's why we're starting at ground one. We're following, what the Lord told us to do, what we feel he told us to do. And it seems to be working really well. He's making room for us. People are so glad we're here because we're not, starting something and don't finish. It's, you're the first ones who've come who finished what they said they were going to do.
What does your organization team bring to the table for the Idlewild community?
We're consistently providing programming, information for kids and adults, families. We do counseling, life skills, financial literacy. We do Black history studies, civics, health and wellness programs and seminars, music and arts, leadership training for people who want to learn how to run and lead things here because it's so lacking in that kind of information. So we're here for the long haul.
That was my conversation with Carmen and Kyle Grier. They are the co-founders of the Teen Center, a nonprofit in Idlewild, Michigan. WDET's listener survey is now open, and your feedback helps shape the future of Detroit Public Radio. It's quick, anonymous, and lets us know what you love, what you like more of, and where we can improve. Complete the survey, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a custom WDET prize pack. Visit WDET.org/survey. Coming up, Hotel Casa Blanca, which was one of the places to stay at Idlewild, has been vacant for decades. Its new owners have plans to bring it back to life. I talked to them all about it and those plans next. Stay right there.